Hello everyone! I have received quite a few requests to cover the PilotsDeck Stream Deck plugin and show how to create your own custom profiles or modify existing ones for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So here it goes. This will be a multi-part series, and in this first episode I'll give you a quick overview of the plugin's basic features, and then we will build a simple custom button to control the A320 in the sim. And here we are in empty dark plane, and we can start building our new profile and new buttons. First, if we go to the overhead panel, that's something we are working with today, and I have an idea that I want to make these anti-ice engine buttons to work, or at least one of those. And then if I open my Stream Deck profile here, that you can follow and see what is happening. So first we can toggle the external power so we can get some light and life to the buttons what we are working with. So these anti-ice engine buttons, they are of course toggling the anti-ice function on and off, but they have this indicator showing that they are on, this blue on text. That's what we try to set up in the button as well. So in Stream Deck and PilotsDeck plugin, there are multiple different kind of buttons available, and I'm not going through all of them with the high detail. But if you want, you can always go to this PilotsDeck GitHub page, where you can also download the plugin. And from here you can see a lot of different guidance and introductions and documentation, whatever you need to do with this plugin. I highly recommend to take a look on this, but it is also quite heavy documentation, as you can see that there's a lot of details, a lot to read about, but at least everything is documented very well. If we want to see what kind of buttons there are, they are also listed here. They tell what the button is meant to use for, or how does it function. So basically there is this display value button, which is really simple. So it's a button that you can toggle something on and off, for example, but it will show also value on the profile. It's handy if you, for example, want to read battery value or how much you have fuel left. Then there is this simple button, which is just, as it says, simple button that you can toggle something on or off or switch something on the plane, but it doesn't show anything. And then the third one, which I'm gonna cover today somehow, is this dynamic button. So instead of showing some exact value, you can show on or off text or this kind of status indicator. So how can we show value from simulator if we want? Let's start with this display value. We can put it here. And now we don't have anything shown except its zero value. And what we need to do, we need to find this variable address, and then here we need to tell where we want the value to be read from the simulator. And how to find these. There are different kind of variables which you can use and different kind of events, but today I'm gonna use only A variables and K variables, which are also called sim events. And these are documented in this SDK documentation. And there are different kind of documentation for 2020 version and 2024 version. So whichever version you are working with or playing with, choose the correct documentation. This covers quite a lot of different variables and values and events, functionalities, but also if you have some custom plane or plane is pretty complex, then you probably won't find everything from here. But this is good to start with, and we are going with this one today. So we want to have anti-ice engine buttons working. So we can find that from left side, and there is this programming APIs. Open that, and here we have simulation variables. And from here, we are interested of aircraft variables. So this aircraft symbars, open that. And actually now we can close this one so we get a little bit more space. And you can try to find the variable directly from these different categories, but let's use some shortcut and let's try to find it searching. I can't write today. Anti-ice, engine anti-ice. So this is probably something what we are needing today. Did we jump in the correct place? We can try to find it here as well. This is not the correct one, I think. Yes, here is the value, engine anti-ice. And what we have here is, if I scroll a little bit up, so here is the table. So the first column is the name of the variable, and then if there's any parameters included, and then the description. So this helps to recognize where this variable is used for. And then with a variable and variables, there are units, and also if the variable is writable, settable, or if you can just read it. Here we can see that we are not able to set it, so we can only read this. And how we can use this, so we need to copy this name. And now I can show also from this PilotsDeck plugin page. So we are working, there's a list all of the comments and variables which are available. And we are working with a variable to read the value, and then later k variable. So let's jump to the a variable from this link. And here are the good examples what kind of format we need to use to read this variable. So this is the format. And now if I go to this new button which we created, and here is the address. So we need to put this, and then we paste the variable name which we just copied. And as it was shown, here we have index, so we need to tell which engine or which button we are using, and we want to have engine 1. So let's have number 1, and then this was Boolean type. And let's close the, and that should be correct. So now we should be able to get this value into our profile. And let's test it. If I press the button in the game, we can see that the value changes in our profile. So we got that working. But like I said, that this display value is not maybe the best if you want to show some indicator which these buttons have. So the 1 and 0 is not the best looking option here. So with this one we could use actually this dynamic button. So let's have this here, and it has similar setup, so we need to have the variable, but also on and off states. If we go this tab, we can see that there is on image and off image, and there are a lot of out of the box buttons and images which you can use, but we can utilize these which come out of the box or which come by default, so on and off. So here we can get the address, we can copy this and use it here, so we don't need to write it. And then if we go to the on and off states, we need to tell which value is on and which is off, because that might vary. So we know that 1 is on, and when the value is 0, then it's off. And now we should have this kind of visual button which will show the status of the button. And let's test it. So when I press the button, we can see that the first button shows the value 1, but the second button, which we create, is showing the value on, or indicator on. Of course, this is not exactly the button what we have in the plane, because it doesn't have this off value. But if we would work with this one, we could put, for example, off value 2, because that will never happen. So then we don't have the off value coming. And now we have just on, but no off. Also, there's possibility to have actual button shown. So let's do that in our first button. And here is this background tab. And here you can select what kind of background you want to have for this button. And there are quite many out-of-the-box buttons and indicators which you can use and utilize. And you can first select here from the image directory. There are a few which you can also customize and create your own. And then from this background image, you just select what button you want to use. Unfortunately, this list is not visible now when I'm recording, but I just select basic frame. And when I select, then you get this kind of white surrounding, but there are multiple options which you can choose. And now when we change the value from the game, we have the button there, and then the value is shown inside the button. But what if we want to now change the value? We want to use the button from the profile. Then we need to set that differently. So we can use the second button here. And like I mentioned earlier, we are utilizing these K variables, which is mentioned and documented here. So these are events which can be sent to the sim, and they do something when you are sending this kind of event. And these are documented in this SDK documentation. Let's go different section. So we can close the simulation variables, and instead we open this key events. And from here, now if we try to find something with anti-ice, we can find nothing, but let's find something with ice. Okay, looks promising. And here we have anti-ice set engine 1. So probably this is something we will need. Yeah. So we have different variable / event for all engines. And we have this anti-ice set, but also anti-ice toggle. And I want to use this toggle, so it means that when you are sending this event to the sim, it will toggle the switch. If it's on, it goes off, and if it's off, it goes on. So it's easier also to put in the button that you don't need to check what is the status. And we are working with the engine 1, so let's copy this. And then open this second button. And here is the tab command. And here you can tell to the button what it needs to do. And you need to put the variable or event in this command address here. And as I mentioned, this is K variable. So now we have command type L variable. So we need to change that. And there's a list of command types. And this is the same that unfortunately it is not visible when I'm opening this drop-down list. But here I just need to select K variable sim event. And now we should have this button mapped. So when I press this button from my Stream Deck, we can see that it's toggling the engine 1 anti-ice, and also the value is changing in the profile and game itself. That was a simple tutorial how to set up your own buttons and how to customize these using this SDK and A variables and K variables. I'll be covering more details and more different kind of variables and methods how you can build more complex setup in your profile. And also sometimes it's not that easy to recognize what variable you can actually use for certain functions, and that's something I'm gonna cover as well on that video. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully it was also useful for you and you can utilize this guidance and tutorial to build your own profiles for your Stream Deck. Catch you on the next part. Have a nice flights.